Welcome to Module 5 of the CAGen Training with Studio Developer. In this module we're going to cover system attributes. Starting with our logon procedure step that we've been developing throughout the previous modules. In previous modules we've looked at the use of work views to store data, for example our return code or our logon count. In addition to user-defined views, CAGen provides a number of system attributes that are available to you. What I'm going to do is show you all of the system attributes by filtering on System, and here you have a list of the system attributes like current date or current time or the tran code, and you can reference those in your action diagram logic without having to, for example, if you were interested in the current date, you wouldn't have to write your own logic to retrieve the current date. You could just reference this system attribute. Two system attributes in particular you'll probably make quite a lot of use of. One is command and the second is exit state. An exit state is similar to a return code, and we could have used an exit state instead of our return code for validating the password. So if we take a look at the validation of the password, instead of defining my own work view of return code and message, instead I could have used an exit state. So for example, exit state is, and then create a new exit state. For example, and make that an error. So I could have put in that exit state there, and similarly when I'm completed I could set an exit state to, for example, a standard one or already processing OK, and then if I save that, instead of testing the return code, I could test the exit state. So for example, if exit state is equal to processing OK, then I can do some work. Otherwise, do something else. So exit states are similar to return codes in that they have a value like a code. In this case it's a name, and they have a message associated with them. For example, that and in addition they have one property, the termination action, which you wouldn't normally have access to in your own views, and that is the ability to either roll back a transaction or abort it if the exit state is set. So that provides some additional functionality that you wouldn't have by default through just using your own user-defined work view for the return code and message. Apart from that, whether you choose to use exit states or your own return codes is to a certain extent a matter of project standards. You probably want to stick to one or the other. The advantage of return codes is you can test easily the value, so greater than or equal to 8 or greater than or equal to 4, whereas to test all of the possible errors using exit states, I'd probably want to enumerate all of the possible exit states, which could get a bit tedious. The advantage of the exit state, though, is you don't have to view match it, and as soon as you set it, no matter how many levels deep of nesting of code, that is the current value of exit state, which is available to all action blocks without having to do the view matching. So that's an example of exit states. In this case, I'm not going to change my code, so I'm just going to leave it as it was. And then the other special system attribute that we talked about was the command, and I'll give you an example of the use of command. I may want some additional functions on my window. So one might be, I'll call this reset password, and just make this a bit bigger. And then another might be change password. And then what I'll do is just make this a bit bigger, and then I'll align all of these buttons. So with these two buttons, we could associate each one with an event, or another way of handling this would be if I wanted to call the same event based on whether I'm resetting or changing the password, I could create an event called maybe password action, and then if they press reset password, I'm going to set, I'll just make this a bit bigger, set the command to reset. It doesn't yet exist. Actually, I'll just use another reset password, or change. I'll use the same event action and a password of change. So if I save that, there's the event action in my procedure step, and that could be called from one of two commands. So I could create a case of command, and my two commands were change or reset password, and then I may have some common logic here, and I may have some change specific logic here. So essentially the command enables me to run a piece of common logic, in this case an event action, and I can pass the value of the command when I invoke the action. There's this additional system attribute where I can say I can pass in a command, and we'll see some other examples of the use of commands when we come on to talk about dialog flows in a subsequent module. So that's just really showing you the use of these exit states, these commands, and the other system attributes that you've got available to you when you're developing your logic.